Okay, so we are going to go over how to create a new layer in Illustrator. So I'm going to create a new document, and I will simply open up a print document, and I'll just use a letter size to demonstrate this. So I'll hit create. Okay, so one thing to note is at the top of your control panel, which is this bar that's up here at the top of your screen, this will reflect whatever tool is selected on your toolbar here. And right now we have the selection tool selected. And that will be the default tool that should open up every time you open up Illustrator. But what I want to point out is here we have two attributes that we can attach to an object. This first one is our fill. The second is our stroke. And if we wanted to make a shape, we would use the rectangle tool. Another thing I want to point out, if we move over to the right side of our screen, on this tool panel here, or I'm sorry, this panels strip here, we can open up our layers. And notice that we have one layer attached right now, and this is our one artboard. If I wanted to create an object, so here I'll create a rectangle. I'll change the fill to red, and I will make the stroke yellow just so we can see it. And I'll increase the stroke weight by 5 points. And I'll hold the shift key to keep the proportion of my rectangle square. And now I have an object. I'm going to hold down the command key, and what that does is it gives you the selection tool. Now I can just click anywhere on the screen to deselect the object. So now I'm going to choose a selection tool. Now you can see I can move this object around just like so. Notice that this object has a blue bounding box around it. And if we look at our layers panel, on here we have a blue bar, and then over here a blue button. If I click off of the object now is not selected, but I could use the layers panel to select my object as well, just like so. Okay, and now I'm going to duplicate this object. So I'm going to hold the Option key down, and notice that when I press down on the Option key, my cursor changes, and I get a black and white cursor now. So now if I click and drag, what it does is it duplicates my object, just like so. And if I go to my layers panel and expand that by clicking on this button here, you can see I have my two objects. And if I wanted to select them both, I can click the button inside of the layers panel. If I hold the shift key down, they're now both selected. And let me demonstrate that again. If I click one object is selected. If I hold the shift key down, now they're both selected. And now I can move it over to the side. If I want, I can hold the shift key down and change the scale by clicking on those handles. Now, what if I wanted to place each object in its own layer? The way I would do that is I would go to the layers panel. So click on layers panel again. Down at the bottom of the panel, we have this button here, create new layer. Well, we can also go to the flyout menu and also select new layer as well. I'm going to use the create new layer button. Notice that my new layer has a red bar here, and layer number 1 has a blue bar. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this button to target that object. Okay. Notice that my bounding box is in blue. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to drag it into layer number 2. And now it has a red bounding box. If I hold the Shift key and click layer 1, well, if I click layer 1, I now have a blue bounding box. If I click layer 2, I have a red bounding box. Just like so. You can also click your layers and change the order of them by doing that. Another great feature about your layers is that you can change your stacking order by changing the order of the layers. So let me change this color just so we can see the stacking order. So I just changed the color to green right now. And if I wanted to, I could place this on top of this red layer. And now I can move that down. And now the red layer is on top because I changed the layer order. So your layers will also tell you what's on top and what's on the bottom. It's an easy way to find an object, especially if you had a lot more objects than just these two. It's an easy way to quickly select your objects without having to actually click on the object itself.